Hi there, this is a video to accompany the writing process page that you are looking at. You can listen and scroll down. You can turn off the sound and just read this. Hopefully what I have to say will complement the words on the page. So here we go, and hopefully this won't take too long, but like most teachers, I'm rather long-winded, so I better get to it. Helpful hints for you with your writing process. The first thing I suggest is set reasonable goals. It is never, for instance, a reasonable goal to write a super awesome essay the night before it's due. Even if this maybe has worked for you in the past, don't plan on it working for you now. I will be pretty stringent with regard to the quality of your work, and I have yet to meet the student who can bang out super awesome work in just a very short period of time that will pass muster. If you are that person, I suggest you go find our director of composition and tell her you want to challenge the class, and you can do a couple of essays for her and get credit for the class without having to take it. Um, very few people are successful in that regard, so I'm assuming the vast bulk of you are not that person. So be reasonable. Start well in advance. Have a goal of just getting a draft done. And this requires starting well in advance, not the night, the morning of something being due. And your life will be easier, and you will hate it less or enjoy it more, depending upon the kind of person you are. So, reasonable goals. I have to start something well in advance of when it is due. I just submitted a brief article, only 550 words, which you guys maybe wish we were only writing that much, but that's all the editor gave me. I had to start writing the actual composing process a week in advance. I'd actually started one paragraph of it further in advance than that, but basically a week in advance, and that's when I began conducting interviews and getting information from others for this story. It's in Out There Monthly's October edition, I hope. It hasn't come out yet, and I never know for sure if it's going to be there till I actually see it. But the editor said it was good. So anyhow, so I give myself a week on these things, and I consider myself a reasonably accomplished writer. And so I do that, and I revise to make things fit. So I try to be reasonable. So be reasonable. Excellence does not happen, boom, right off the bat. Inspiration will not come when you need it most. So chip away at things, that kind of thing. One part of being reasonable is doing the easy parts first, and I'll kind of get into that later. Make writing a habit. Writing is kind of like exercise for those of you who are athletic in any way. I'm a bike rider, and the last few weeks I've averaged about 170 miles of riding a week. I have done that because I have a goal of 4,000 miles for this year. I'm at about 3,300 miles, so I might break that goal. I hope to anyway. But it's just like that. If I only rode my bike once a week and I rode 150 miles each day on Saturday or Sunday or something, I'm going to be hurting. And it's not going to be fun. But because I ride 5 or 6 or 3, 4, 5, 6, sometimes 7 days a week, it's a habit. I'm fit. I can go out and knock out 60 miles without too much trouble. Last Saturday, I rode 96.6, I believe it was. I can't remember exactly, but it was pretty close to that. That was a long day. But it's because I had several thousand miles under my belt. The same is true with writing. Whenever I write frequently, it's a little bit easier to get things going. And so I like to chip away at my writing. I'm not one of those binge writers. And so give that a shot. Regular time and place is good. Morning is best for me. I have a nice desk that's kind of dirty right now. It's at home. Sometimes I have a cat who likes to lay on top of it. I have a regular strategy too. For journalism type stuff, I type only. For fiction type stuff, I write it on a yellow legal pad and type it up later. Just find out what works for you. Warm-up writing, I never do, but maybe you will. So you want to get your Facebook updates done, your text cleared, all that kind of stuff. Who knows? I do try as much as possible to write fast, but more than fast. Well, I guess I write pretty quickly. When I'm writing longhand, I just try to bang stuff out and do what I can with it and get as much down as possible. I don't worry about spelling. I hardly worry about sentence structure. There's a little bit of that going on, but not too much. I just try to get things out there. I take breaks. Once I've accomplished with writing stories, if I've ended a scene, I will take a break. With writing journalism type stuff, I just kind of think, I want a cup of coffee or something like that, and I get up and go. So, just decide. But, usually I have, shaped something, accomplished something before I take a break. If you get stuck, and I think this is very important, be willing to in turn return to invention strategies. Too often, invention strategies are referred to as pre-writing, as something you do only before you do your writing. Well, when we go with invention strategies, it fits better with what Aristotle had to say about invention, which is coming up with stuff. Sometimes Aristotle tells us it is easier to come up with things based on reality, and I tend to agree with him, and than it is to come up with just invented stuff, fables, that kind of thing. And so if you get stuck, you need material, come back to the invention process. Excuse me, I got to scroll down the page here. I got to not swivel out of the screen. So invention, I'm always going to give you the subject. That's pretty much going to be true for most academic, or maybe all writing, except for writing you do for yourself. What you will do is decide on the topic. So I've given you the subject of a literacy narrative. You will have the topic of whatever the heck it is that you're writing about how you do all of your writing on Facebook, how you hate writing on Facebook, how you like to go into internet discussion forums and trash people for their sloppy grammar, or how you've had your, typos jumped all over as sloppy grammar. I don't know what it is, but that might be, something that would be the topic for you. The next step is to decide on a purpose, and this is key to our writing about writing approach. If you don't know what you are trying to achieve, you will have no clue. And as an English 101 student, and maybe through most of my college writing as an undergraduate, and maybe even as a graduate student, this was something I struggled with. I never, or not always effectively, clearly defined my purpose, and this held me back. Without a clear purpose, you cannot craft, for instance, a solid introduction, a solid conclusion to drive home that point, because you haven't articulated that point. So you want to do that. That is key. You need to take into account, excuse me, your audience as well, because different audiences will need different things. So purpose, rhetorical goal, controlling idea, the audience, what you want to do with that audience, that's all very important, and you need to clarify that, and I will spell that out for you with each assignment to some degree. So after you've decided what you want to achieve, begin your invention process. And for the first assignment, I will lay out, and probably every assignment, I'll lay out some invention process. Our first assignment, you're going to create a list of potential literacy events, I guess, to write about. You're going to choose one of those literacy events and create a second list of details about that event. you're then going to choose one of those details and do a free write about it. So we're doing 3 invention steps here: listing. We're going to narrow focus with a second list. We're going to narrow our focus further and begin banging out some information. So that's what we'll do, and that narrowed focus is also an essential component to meeting the needs of your audience. So once you've done that, you're going to decide on your best material, maybe consider your organization, begin paying more attention now to what your audience needs here, and see how that goes. You then want to kind of review your invention materials, give them a good look, put them aside, maybe take a break. So as part of your process, once you've done solid invention, take a break. Go do something pleasurable. Go clean the cat box. Go have a beer or a coffee, whatever it is you like to do. Send some text messages. Screw around on Facebook. Post on Instagram. Take a nap. I don't care. But give yourself a reward. Take a break. Okay. So you've done your invention. You're coming back to the drafting process. If you can, start with a working title. 2, 3, 4 words. If you can boil your purpose, point, idea down to those few words, you've got a good start. Your brain is working in the right direction. As you draft, don't worry about starting with the introduction. I mentioned do the easy parts first. I always say, how can you introduce something that does not exist? Now, maybe you're one of those people who sort of composes the whole thing in your head before you put it to paper. I kind of straddle the fence there and have an idea sometimes, but oftentimes I go back and totally rework my introduction. So don't worry if your introduction stinks. In fact, going back to general advice, give yourself permission to do a lousy job on your first draft. You can fix it. Nothing is perfect. You've yet to read or write anything that is perfect, so don't think you're going to be the first in that regard, because chances are you're not. Writing is a struggle in that regard, so don't worry about being perfect. So, and part of it is that means you don't have to write the first perfect sentence followed by the perfect second sentence, so on and so forth, to set up the perfect thesis, to set up the first perfect example. Just bang out what you can bang out in your initial draft. When you are drafting, concentrate on the flow of ideas, getting the information down. Don't worry about spelling so much. Don't worry about choosing the right word. Don't go to your thesaurus and kill the flow. Just get as much information on the page as possible. Do maybe pay attention to the logical flow of your ideas, but try to turn off that judgmental aspect of your brain as much as possible and just bang stuff out. And you can judge the heck out of yourself in the revision process. And I should say not yourself, because whether you're a good writer or a bad writer does not make you a good person or a bad person or what have you. But you'll judge your writing. So I got to watch that language there. So you've drafted, you've got this big mess on the page. It stinks, but you've got something, and that is a good thing. So when you've got that, again, take a break. Do whatever you need to kind of chill out for a little bit, and then come back and do your revision. You'll notice that I'm going to again go back to the being reasonable in your goals and not writing or thinking you're going to write a bang-up essay the day or night it's due, or before it's due, or the morning it's due, or what have you, because you don't get to take these breaks. And one of the important things about breaks is that, as we see with the revision process, is it allows you to get some time between yourself and the draft. And you've got to work ahead in order to do this. That way you can more readily see the problem areas in your writing, because all writing is going to have problem areas. And what we do as writers is smooth over those problem areas. So when you come back and read it after a day, or maybe you worked on it that morning and you went to work and came back that evening to work on it again, you'll read it. And if it makes sense to you at that point, chances are it's going to make sense to your reader. at least to a reasonable degree. We just, don't really know for sure. But if it does not make sense to you, if you're looking at it and going, what the heck did I mean by that? Well, if you don't know, I guarantee you nobody else is going to know. So what you've done is you've assumed that identity of the reader, the editor, and so you need to start looking at it through those eyes. You need to tackle your work and see what you can do to fix it up, to make it work for the reader, because that is what matters. This is where the work really begins in making your prose what we call reader-centered, where the reader matters. I tell students over and over again, it's your job to make things easy for the reader, and it's hard. So be ready for some work. So what can you do? Well, you can read your paper to friends or family, but don't let them tell you, oh, that is awesome, that is so good, I love it. That's not the kind of feedback you need, and that's not the kind of feedback that is helpful. You need people who will be honest. As I said, there is always something that needs work. Especially in a course like this, whether it's sentence level, whether it's essay organization, whether it's paragraph organization. Don't let people get away with saying, man, that rocks. You totally rocked it. And if that's what they say, they tell them, well, why don't you be particular and tell me just what is it that rocks about this? And get them to tell you, get them to be specific. So do that. Have them read it. If you read to other people aloud, that's good, because you have in your brain a good sense of how things make sense. Oftentimes that doesn't get from the brain to the page. That's what makes writing hard. So if you stumble over things as you try to read it aloud, chances are there's a problem with it, because you have pretty good intuitive grammar in your head. Something just gets messed up when we try to put it on the page. So that's one way to catch that kind of thing. So have others read it. Make sure they are people who will tell you the truth. Read it aloud to others. Ask them, does it make sense? Does it work for you? See how that goes. We'll have a formal written process for that, and I'll go over it each as it's time to go over it. But that's another form of feedback you'll use. So the suggestion is, first you revise for big picture stuff, the big idea, that sort of thing. Second time reading through it, evaluate the details. Are they concrete and specific? That kind of thing. Usually the way you can step things up here is to focus on your nouns and your verbs. Are they particular? Is somebody running fast, or are they sprinting? Sprint is better than run fast, because we got one verb instead of a verb and an adverb. That's kind of precision. I can't think of a good noun example, but watch your use of pronouns, they, he, she, it, when you can be more particular, my mother, the police officer, Mr. Joe, my old English teacher, whatever it is, look for those. I suggest more Anglo-Saxon root words. Those are usually simple words, one or two syllables. We Anglo-Saxon-y language types are closer to grunting than the Latin and French and Greek root words, and so keep it simple. Finally, mechanics, check your punctuation, that kind of thing. Do you really know that all the commas are in the right place? Have you run a spell check? Blah, blah, blah. All that kind of stuff. And again, you might do this more than once, twice, or thrice. It's not like you do it once and it's good. So basically, work, write, revise, and talk to me. I guess one other thing is, you can come in and see me. You can ask questions. We have an online writing support. I'll have to find a link for that, and I'll provide it later. We have a campus peer tutoring center where you can get writing help. So take advantage of all those opportunities. Smart students take advantage of the help that is out there. They don't think, oh, only stupid people do that. No, the smart people get all the help they can. This is what will make or break kind of you as a student by coming in, working with faculty. That's the biggest advantage, I think, of being at a community college and working with people like me. We're here to help. We're paid to help. We have this job because we like to help you. I am not winnowing out stupid people. Rather, I am helping you come across as smart as possible. So, because that's my job and that's what I want to do, and that's why I'm here, and I hope that's why you're here. So, anyway, writing process stuff, long, boring, blah blah blah, yada yada yada. But if you got any questions, let me know. And I look forward to talking to you all later, online, in person, chatting. Who knows? Bye bye.